So you're a grantpreneur. USAID is dead. What next?
Welcome to Talk, Tales of an African CEO.
Let's do a bit of history. Let's talk about how the USAID was created by John Fitzgerald Kennedy in the 1960s, really to support the soft power of the American soft power globally. That's really supported with the Marshall Plan and other programs like that. But truly, today, the budget of the USAID is between $40 to $50 billion. That's a lot of money, but actually represents less than 1% of the US government budget. But that 1% or less than 1% has a massive economic and healthcare and other sort of impact globally. And so we're going to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of entrepreneurship in relation to USAID's death. The USAID's death is ugly. Look, with programs such as PEPFAR that really support HIV-inflicted countries like South Africa, it's dramatic in the terms of effect that is having on people. Especially countries such as Nigeria, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Egypt have benefited from USAID's support in the range of $1.5 to $1 billion last year. This is a lot of money that has gone to supporting economies, countries across various activities that are critical. Removing that is an ugly move by the US government. And frankly speaking, that has a massive effect on entrepreneurs as well going forward. So you're a grantpreneur, take note. Not only is it ugly, but it's also bad. Remember, a lot of the USAID implementers are actually US companies such as Palladium, DAI, Chemonics, and many, many other ones that are really were in bed, I would say, with the USAID and being supported by them. So if you take a ratio of one USAID job to maybe 3 or 4 in these implementers, that's a massive ripple effect where probably a lot of the implementers will cut 30, 40, maybe 50% of their workforce because of that. That's a massive impact, even on US employment, right? The other aspect is you as a grantpreneur, you may have applied to incubators, accelerators, or investment readiness programs that essentially no longer can fund you. So that means that if I were you, I'll do a COVID scenario where I'll reject my budget, my finances, to make sure that with that cut, you can still survive and potentially thrive. Examples are, USAID is supporting Kenyan startups through $100 million programs, for instance, the Kenyan Investment Mechanism, and many other ones across Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia, South Africa, and many other countries across the continent that have really had a negative effect of that. The full extent of that globally is still yet to be felt, but this is bad for American soft power, and really that opens the door for other powers to fill this void. So after all this doom and gloom, let's talk about a few things that are actually positive. Winston Churchill said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." But I actually prefer the Chinese proverb that says, "A crisis is an opportunity riding a dangerous wind." So for you as an entrepreneur, what does it mean? Just like in COVID times, we believe at Talk that it's a wake-up call for you and for development partners to look at their business model. You, grantpreneur, you must change and pivot and make your business more sustainable. As ex-President Uhuru Kenyatta said during his very, very viral video, it's very high time that we own our own development path because that money is for Americans. So if they want to use it for their own benefit, they can. We just need to do our own thing. So it's also a wake-up call for African governments, the African Union, regional bodies to really take this massive opportunity to revisit how we've been functioning so far. So for you, grantpreneur, it's the same. You have to consider pivoting and making your business more sustainable in the next 12 months because a lot of donors are going to cut or have already cut their support to ecosystems and then the development aid. So what next? Development partners, a number of NGOs that are on the continent, you really seriously need to consider pivoting or adding a wing to your business to be much more sustainable. A lot of you will have probably to transform into social enterprises, or if you're already a social enterprise that is not sustainable, you have to be much more commercial. So you, grantpreneur, it's time for you to pivot, reconsider your business model, and make it much more financially sustainable in the long run. That is the only way you can survive. What I would also advise is consider merging, putting resources with other organizations or your startup, consider partnering or merging with other ones to make sure that you are big enough, obviously potentially laying down people, but at least you would survive. One of the key things also is that we predict that out of the 600 incubators, accelerator co-working spaces that are been listed on the continent over the last few years, it's very, very likely that at the pace of the change in development aid, ecosystem support, etc., let's bet that 300, 50% will only remain in the next 2 years. So that means that the pool of support you can get to prep yourself, etc., is going to be very much reduced. That's one of the consequences of the tectonic shift that is happening today. Grantpreneur, be aware, be ready, transform yourself, otherwise you will die. Let me give you a bit of advice. First, very quickly rethink your business model and look at different scenarios that may happen in the next 6 to 12 months. It's very critical today. Rethink your funding options, right? Angel investors, corporate venture capital funds, etc., may not have the money that they expected to have earlier because maybe they have somewhere relationship with USAID and the development space. You might have to bootstrap for longer to get to the same kind of milestones. Reconsider that. That's number one. Number two, clearly outline the way you might strategically do partnership, both locally, internationally, to make your business much more attractive for much more commercially focused investors. Lastly, make sure you engage with your leaders in your country to unlock the massive pools of capital that are dormant within the pension fund industries, within the corporates, within different industries that tend to have a lot of capital like the mining, infrastructure, etc., that could be unlocked to support innovation in your country. So grantpreneur, wake up, pivot now, do mergers, partner to survive. That was Tales of an African CEO. Subscribe, like, and share.